As I thought about it, yes, it is pretty strange when you think about it, but there were a lot of visiting blues acts and only 1.5 TV channels, so they put them on those channels. At age 82, Mick Jagger, who was once the most famous rock and roll star, seems a long way from the life he had in the past. He used to be able to fill arenas with his boundless energy and magnetic charm, but now he has to deal with the quiet effects of getting older. He can't get back the memories of the past that are all around him. Riches and fame couldn't protect him from sadness, being alone, and time going by all the time. How did the unstoppable symbol of youth and defiance get to the point where his life is so painfully sad? We're going to tell you the sad truth about MC Jagger's later years that has never been told before. But first, please subscribe to our station if you like MC Jagger. We talk about amazing stories about Western stars and old Hollywood stars. MC Jagger was born in 1943 in the small, quiet town of Dartford in Kent. He grew up in a world that was structured and focused on small goals. The values of Britain's middle-class order, schooling, and tradition shaped how he was raised. His father, Basil Joe Jagger, was a respected physical education teacher, and teachers had been in his family for generations. It was almost certain that Mick would follow the same well-paved path, which led to success in school and social standing. But Mick's spirit pulled him in a different way from the start. Before screens took the place of stories and songs, he came to life at family events by impersonating other people, playing upbeat music, and dancing on the spot. For Mick, what might have seemed like harmless fun was really a wake-up call. These shows weren't just for fun. People were getting ready for a different kind of life those quiet times. That spark. Parents thought he was committed to school and a future made of books and rules. He told his family nothing about this life because he knew it went against their hopes for him. For them, the music world was a dangerous side trip into chaos and unreliability. For Mick, though, it was everything that the classroom wasn't. Wild, exciting, and full of life. The cheers of people he didn't know gave him something that no test could. Proof that people saw, heard, and felt him. The beginnings of a legend were planted in those quiet exits and secret gigs. Not yet. He wasn't after fame. That mood and rhythm didn't fit into the neat world he was born into. It's hard not to wonder when you look back. Was he running away from something or just going to become the person he was always meant to be? Two boys used to go to Wentworth Primary School in the small English town of Dartford and talk to each other in the yard and in class, Jay-Z and Keith Richards. Their first friendship was simple and easy to forget, like many friendships from youth that fade over time. As they went to different middle schools and started their own lives, their friendships slowly fell apart as they became more accustomed to the normalcy of life in the suburbs after World War II. Luck, on the other hand, has a way of coming back around when no one expects it. Today, October 17, 1961, at 8 a.m., Mick, who was 18 years old, stood at Dartford railway station holding two records, Rocking at the Hops by Chuck Berry and The Best of Muddy Waters. He was on his way to the London School of Economics and looked like he was ready for a life of hard work in school. Neil Richards, who was also 18 and going to Sidcup Art College, saw the records under Mick's arm at that very stop. There was a spark. What started out as a quick hello between former classmates quickly turned into a talk that would be remembered for a long time in the history of music. Not just a get-together, it was the return of something they both didn't know was missing. On the gray train platforms where people were just talking, the two teens were talking about American blues, a style of music that is still mostly unknown in Britain but is full of rawness and revolt. Most of their friends liked to dance to polished pop songs, but Jagger and Richards were drawn to the rough, soulful music of Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters, Bo Diddley, and Howlin' Wolf. They were more than just fans. They were fans of a sound that didn't quite fit in but called to them like a secret code. Soon after that meeting, Keith wrote a letter to his Aunt Patty that he would later include in his autobiography. In it, he talked about a boy from elementary school who, to his surprise, had become the best R&B musician this side of the Atlantic. This love was strong and quick. Mick asked Keith to come to practice with his cover band, Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys. It wasn't long before those friendly jam sessions turned into something important and unavoidable. As Brian Jones and Ian Stewart joined, the roll. The newspaper, which never misses a chance to make a big story, quickly told the cops what happened. Then there was a raid that made headlines and shook the band's world. Cops went into Redlands expecting chaos, but they found a lot less than they thought they would. The so-called proof wasn't very strong. Police only found a few properly prescribed pills on Jagger. They did not belong to him, but to his then-girlfriend, singer Marianne Faithfull. In a moment that would define him, Jagger refused to shift blame. Instead, he chose to keep her from having to deal with the consequences. It was a shocking result. Many people thought that Jagger's 3-month prison term was way too harsh. An important part of the people knew this wasn't about pills. It was meant to silence the Stones, who had become a major societal force. It was Jagger's swagger and defiance that shook up the establishment, and now they were fighting back. But just when it looked like the system had worked to punish him, he found an unexpected friend. William Ream Moog, editor of the Times and a conservative elite figure, wrote a now famous editorial called "Who Breaks a Butterfly on a Wheel?" In it, he strongly criticized how the law treated Jagger, saying that he wasn't being punished for a crime but for what he stood for. What Rees-Mogg said touched a nerve across the country. I felt more sympathy. Things changed in the story. Jagger used to be called a bad kid, but now he was seen as a young man who was being unfairly picked on for being brave enough to stand out. Soon, the sentence was thrown out, and Jagger was set free. A heartbreaking quiet fell over the summer of 1969. It would follow MC Jagger and the Rolling Stones for years upon years. At the heart of that silence was Brian Jones, one of the band's founders and a brilliant musician who created their sound from the start. Joe Nez was the band's main creative force in the beginning, but by the end of the decade, his inner demons had made his light dim. His mental health was getting worse, and the legal fights were making him feel even more alone. As the band got ready for a long, hard world tour, they could no longer ignore the growing stress. At some point, the inevitable could no longer be put off. Jagger dealt the final blow when he told his longtime friend and bandmate that he could no longer be a part of the group. It was an emotional moment that people still talk about. It wasn't because they were mean. They had to. It was hard to make the choice because I felt guilty about it. As a way of saying goodbye, the Stones gave Jones $100,000 and tried to make the breakup look like it was mutual, friendly, and without any problems. But behind the scenes, there was a lot of sadness in the air. Next, the disaster that no one saw coming or maybe had been afraid of the whole time. Brian Jones was found dead in his Sussex Homes pool on the night of July 2, 1969, just a few weeks after he had left. Death by misadventure was the coroner's ruling. Even so, the facts of how he died are still not clear. There have been rumors of foul play, cover-ups, and unanswered questions that have made the tragedy worse and cast a long, unbreakable shadow over the band's past. After only 48 hours, the Rolling Stones played a show in London's Hyde Park that wasn't meant to be a memorial but turned into one. Jagger read a poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley in front of a crowd of 200,000 people. The poem was an elegy for another soul who had died too soon. After seeing thousands of white butterflies fly up into the sky, it was clear that this wasn't a show. It was a goodbye and a public time to deal with sadness. Years later, when Jagger had a rare chance to think, she talked about those last few months with Jones. He said he felt bad about how he'd behaved, saying that his youthful arrogance and rising pressures had made him mean. "We were very young," he said. Jagger said, "and in some ways we picked on him." He hadn't fully grasped the depth of Jones's struggle, nor the pain he was carrying. "I wasn't understanding enough about his health." He said nobody really was. The Altamont Free Show happened in December 1969, just a few months after Brian Jones's death. It was another nightmare for the Rolling Stones, designed to reflect the peaceful spirit of Woodstock. Over 300,000 people came to the event at Altamont Speedway in California. But things quickly got out of hand. What was supposed to be a party turned into a symbol of the bad side of the counterculture. It was a spiritual and physical close call for the band. The Rolling Stones' bad choice to hire the Hells Angels to protect the 1969 Altoont Free concert was one of the worst moments in rock history. It would haunt them forever. The Angels, who were paid in beer and left alone, made the already tense crowd even worse by getting drunk and acting out. Meredith Hunter, 18, was stabbed to death near the stage during the Stones set, which caused a lot of trouble. A sad moment that was captured in the documentary Gimme Shelter. That night, the dream of peace in the 1960s died. The terrible thing didn't end there, though. Years later, a scary truth came to light. In the wake of the event, Jagger's public distance from the Hells Angels made some members feel cheated. A former FBI agent said that a small group planned to kill him at his vacation home on Long Island. They set out by boat at night, but a sudden storm almost drowned them, so they had to give up on their goal. The plan didn't come together, but Altont's evil stayed and will be written in rock history forever. Mick Jagger's life has had many sides to it. Besides music, he used to want to be an actor. He got parts in movies like Performance and Ned Kelly, and he even wanted to play Mozart and Amadeus and Dr. Frank N. Furter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Even though those parts never came up, Jagger was funny when he was turned down. You only get a shot if the other guy gets sick. He has had an interesting life. Only got married once, first to Bianca Perez Mora Macias in 1971.